Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be diving deep into Mind Upon a Journey to the Heart of Being Human
Oh, yeah.
by Daniel J. Siegel.
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, this one looks really good, and it
Yeah.
seems like it's going to be
It's juicy.
really juicy. I was looking through it earlier, and it's a lot about,
Yeah,
how our minds work, but not just like the brain, like the physical brain,
right.
but also how our relationships with other people
Mm-hmm.
and like our physical body.
Yeah, like your lived experience, the embodiment of like being a human. Yeah.
All of it, yeah. How all of that plays into what we even mean when we say like
Yeah.
the mind,
Yeah, what is the mind, really, right?
Yeah, exactly. And how does it work? What
Yeah.
does that all mean?
Well, and he even challenges, like, what is the mind, right? Because he's saying it's not just the brain.
Right.
It's this embodied experience with your relationships and with your environment, like this interconnectedness.
Yeah. And he even uses this term like interpersonal neurobiology,
Yeah.
like how our relationships with other people actually physically affect
Yeah.
our brains.
Like the structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I know, it's like, whoa.
Like our relationships are literally shaping
Yeah.
the physical structure of our
Yeah.
brains.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's pretty powerful.
Like, so it's not just that like I have a thought and that affects my brain. It's like when I talk to you, that's affecting your brain. And when you talk back to me, that's affecting my brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like we're co-creating our minds in a way
Yeah. Whoa.
through our interactions.
That's so wild.
And he talks about how that's like especially important in early childhood.
Oh, really?
Like those early relationships
Yeah.
with caregivers really lay the foundation for like
I know.
how our brains develop and how we approach relationships like throughout our whole lives.
So it's like we're building the framework
Yeah.
or like the blueprint for our future relationships.
Totally. Yeah, like building the foundation of a house, right? Those early interactions are kind of laying the groundwork for
Yeah.
everything that comes after.
So then what about like people who maybe didn't have
Yeah,
the best relationships early on?
that's a great question.
Like, does that mean they're
Yeah.
kind of stuck with that?
Well, that's where this concept of neuroplasticity comes in, right? So
Right.
Siegel talks about how our brains are constantly changing
Oh, wow.
and adapting
Oh.
throughout our lives.
Okay.
So even though those early experiences are super important, they don't like totally define us.
Right.
We can intentionally create new experiences,
Yeah.
cultivate new ways of thinking and relating, and that can actually rewire our brains.
So it's like hope
Yeah.
for those of us who had
Absolutely, yeah.
a rough start.
Like even if someone had a difficult childhood, they can still learn to form healthy relationships
Yeah.
and build a strong sense of self.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's hopeful.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in how this idea of the mind being more than just the brain, like how does he connect that to the mind-body connection?
Oh, yeah, that's huge for him.
Like, is that part of
Yeah.
that bigger picture too?
Absolutely. He's saying the mind isn't just confined to our heads. It
Right.
like extends throughout our whole bodies.
Okay.
And he uses this example of the gut-brain connection.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever noticed how like stress or anxiety can
Mhm.
like manifest as physical sensations in your stomach?
Okay. Yeah.
Like butterflies
Or like a pit in your stomach.
yeah, a pit in your stomach. That's because our gut actually has its own nervous system.
Whoa.
It's in constant communication with our brains.
So those gut feelings,
Yeah.
that's a real thing.
Yeah, they're not just like a figure of speech.
Yeah, I always thought that was just an expression.
Right, but it turns out there's actually a
Uh.
lot more to it than we might realize.
Okay.
And it's not just the gut, right?
Yeah.
It's like our physical sensations, our movements, even our posture.
Wow.
All of that sends signals to our brains that
Yeah.
can influence our thoughts, feelings,
Right.
and behaviors.
So it's like if I'm slouching,
Mm-hmm.
that could actually
Yeah, it could affect your mood.
make me feel more sad.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all interconnected.
Whoa.
And Siegel's work really highlights how we can leverage this mind-body connection to improve our overall well-being.
Like how?
Well, like things like yoga or mindful movement.
Oh, okay.
Those can not only strengthen our bodies,
Yeah.
but also help us regulate our emotions
Mm.
and cultivate a greater sense of self-awareness.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So speaking of self-awareness,
Yeah.
does Siegel talk about that in his book?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, is that part of this whole interconnected system too?
It's a huge part of his work. He makes this really interesting distinction
Oh, right.
between just basic consciousness,
Okay.
like just being awake
Mhm.
and aware of your surroundings, And then self-awareness, which is
Right.
like being able to reflect on your own
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings.
Very
It's like having this inner observer
Right.
that can step back
Mhm.
and examine like what's happening
Yeah.
inside your own mind.
So it's not just about, like, knowing what's going on around me.
Right.
It's about, like,
It's about understanding what's happening within you.
understanding myself.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Siegel believes that mindfulness is like
Okay.
a really powerful tool
Yeah.
for cultivating self-awareness.
Okay.
So when we practice mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
we're training ourselves to pay attention to our thoughts and feelings
Okay.
and bodily sensations
Yeah.
without judgment.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like just noticing what's there
Right.
without getting caught up in it.
Yeah. That's hard, though.
Oh, it is. It's definitely a practice.
Yeah. I've tried mindfulness meditation before,
Mm-hmm.
but I find my mind,
Yeah.
like, wandering all over the place.
Totally normal. It's completely natural for our minds to wander like
Yeah.
they're like little monkeys
Yeah.
just swinging from thought to thought.
They are.
The key is to just notice when it's happening
Okay.
and then gently guide your attention back.
Back to the present moment.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not about emptying my mind or anything.
No, it's not about like forcing your mind to be blank.
Okay.
It's more about learning to observe those thoughts and feelings
Yeah.
without getting carried away by them.
So I can, like, watch them come and go?
Yeah, exactly. Like watching clouds drift by.
Okay.
You know, they're there. You
Right.
acknowledge them,
Right?
but you don't have to grab onto them.
And they'll keep moving.
Exactly.
Okay. And then once I'm more aware of all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
what happens next?
Well, that's when you can start to see those connections
Yeah.
between your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
Okay.
Like, for example, you might notice that when you're feeling stressed, you tend to engage in
Yeah.
negative self-talk,
I do that.
right? And then that negative self-talk
Mm.
makes you feel even more anxious.
Yeah. I get
So
that.
by becoming aware of that pattern,
Right.
you can start to interrupt it
Okay.
and choose like more helpful ways
Right.
of responding to stress.
Like what?
Well, it could be anything from
Yeah.
taking some deep breaths
Okay.
to going for a walk
Mm.
or talking to a friend.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this is all great in theory,
Uh-huh.
but it sounds like a lot of work.
It definitely takes effort.
Yeah.
But Siegel is a big believer in the power of
And the power of what?
integration.
Okay.
He says that the different parts of our mind,
Yeah.
our emotion,
Mm-hmm.
thoughts,
Right.
sensations, even our memories,
Mm-hmm.
all of those need to work together.
In a harmonious way.
Yeah,
Okay.
for us to really thrive.
So it's not just about, like, understanding each of those things.
That's right. It's about like getting them all. It's about getting them to play nicely together. Right. Yeah.
It's like an orchestra.
Exactly like an orchestra.
Yeah.
Each instrument plays its own unique part.
Yeah.
But when they're all playing together in harmony,
Yeah.
that's when you create beautiful music.
That's when the magic happens.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens if it's not integrated?
Well, that's when things can get a little messy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Siegel suggests that a lack of integration
Okay.
can lead to a lot of
I
challenges.
would.
Well, like difficulty regulating emotions.
Yeah.
Problems with decision-making,
Mhm.
relationships.
Okay.
It can show up in a lot of different ways.
Right.
He gives this great example of how this plays out in the brain.
Oh, really?
So the prefrontal cortex,
Okay.
which is responsible for
For what?
planning and decision-making,
Okay.
that needs to be integrated with the limbic system,
The limbic system.
which is the part of the brain that processes emotions.
Oh, okay. So that's like.
Yeah, so it's like your logical brain
Mm-hmm.
and your emotional brain.
Right.
They need to be talking to each other.
Yeah. So when I'm making a decision,
Mm-hmm.
my logical brain and my emotional brain
Yes.
need to be
on the same page.
on the same page. Okay.
When they're well integrated,
Yeah.
we can make decisions that are both rational
Okay.
and informed by our feelings.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But if they're out of sync,
Mm-hmm.
our emotions can like hijack our decision making.
Oh, yeah.
And that can lead to those impulsive choices
Right.
we later regret.
I've been there.
Yeah, we all have.
For sure.
But the good news is
Okay. What's the good news?
we can strengthen those connections
Okay.
between different parts of our brains
Like health?
through practices like
Yeah.
mindfulness
Yeah.
therapy,
Hmm.
even just becoming more aware
Right.
of our internal processes.
Well, like integration is not
Yeah.
like a thing I either have or don't have.
It's not like an on-off switch.
Right.
It's something we can cultivate
Yeah.
and strengthen over time.
Okay. So it's a process.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an ongoing process.
I can get down with that.
Yeah, and this concept of integration,
Mm-hmm.
it goes beyond just our own internal world.
Really?
Yeah, Siegel also talks about the importance of integration
Okay.
in our relationships
Mhm.
and even in our connection to the wider world.
So it's like,
Yeah.
it starts with me
Uh-huh.
and then
And then it ripples outwards.
to the people around me.
Yeah, to your relationships,
Right.
your community,
Mm-hmm.
your environment,
Wow.
even to like the planet as a whole.
Okay, so that brings us to like
Yeah.
today's world.
Right.
It's so different from how it
Yeah.
used to be.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with information and
Yeah.
stimulation.
Yeah. And it's hard to
Yeah.
like find that balance.
It's really challenging.
Yeah. Siegel talks about that, right?
He does. He acknowledges that this hyper-connected world
Okay.
can make it really hard
Yeah.
to find that sense of balance
Right.
and integration.
Like I feel like my mind is always on, even when I'm trying to relax.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from people. It's like
Yeah.
we're always plugged in,
Yeah.
always connected.
So what can I do about it?
Well, Siegel suggests being intentional
Okay.
about creating boundaries
Boundaries with.
with technology.
Okay.
Like setting aside specific times
Yeah.
to disconnect from your devices,
Mm-hmm.
establishing tech-free zones
Right.
in your home.
Like no phones at the dinner table.
Exactly. Yeah, or like no screens in the bedroom.
Okay.
Just little things like that
Mm.
can make a big difference.
So it's not about like never using technology again.
No, it's not about becoming a Luddite.
Okay.
It's about using it in a way
Yeah.
that supports your well-being
Right.
rather than detracting from it.
It's about being mindful.
Exactly. Yeah, being
Yeah.
mindful of your tech use.
Okay. And what about stress?
Oh, yeah. Stress is a big one.
Yeah.
Siegel talks about the importance of
Yeah.
prioritizing stress reduction techniques.
Like what?
Well, things like mindfulness, meditation,
Mm-hmm.
spending time in nature,
Mm-hmm.
exercise,
Yeah.
all of those things can help build resilience.
To the stress.
Yeah, to the stresses of modern life.
Right. So it's like
Yeah.
I have to build in those.
We got to build in those moments of pause
Yeah.
and restoration.
For like counteract.
Yeah, to counteract the constant stimulation.
Go, go, go.
Exactly.
But it's not just about like individual stuff, right?
Right. It's not just about like taking care of yourself in isolation.
Siegel talks about connection too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like our connection to other people.
He emphasizes that strong social connections
Mm.
are one of the most powerful buffers
Okay.
against stress and mental health challenges.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we're wired for connection. And those bonds provide a sense of belonging,
Yeah.
support, purpose.
It's like that interpersonal neurobiology thing again.
Yeah, it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
Our relationships are literally shaping our brains.
And our minds.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a reminder that
Yeah.
we're not isolated individual.
We're all connected.
We're part of a larger web of relationships.
Yeah.
And those relationships can have a profound impact.
On our mental well-being.
Yeah, on our mental well-being.
So Siegel doesn't just talk about like
No.
here and now, he also talks about like,
He takes us on this fascinating journey
oh, really?
through the evolution of the mind
Okay.
and even into the future.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
Okay, so where does he start with this? Like,
Well, he starts by reminding us
okay.
that the human mind
Mm-hmm.
has been evolving for millennia,
Right.
shaped by the pressures of survival
Yeah.
and the need to adapt to
Right.
changing environments. Yeah, our brains and minds have gone through a lot to
Yeah.
get us to where we are today.
I feel like I should thank my brain.
Yeah, maybe give it a little pat on the head. You know, it's been working hard.
It has been working hard.
But then he takes us into the future.
Okay, so how does he do that?
He suggests that this evolution is ongoing.
Oh, wow.
Like, we're not done evolving.
So it's still happening.
Still happening,
Okay.
yeah. And he
Yeah.
talks about
Yeah.
the exciting possibilities of neuroplasticity,
Right.
that incredible ability of our brains
Yeah.
to rewire themselves throughout life.
So we're not stuck with the brain we're born with
We can actually change and grow
throughout our life.
throughout our lives. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's hopeful, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And Siegel believes that
Mhm.
we're only just beginning to
Right.
tap into the true potential of the human mind.
Oh, wow.
He talks about how
Yeah.
we might be able to boost our cognitive function, enhance our emotional regulation,
Mm-hmm.
even expand our consciousness
Oh,
in ways we can't even imagine right now.
that's a lot.
It's pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah. What do you think about all that?
Well, I think it's incredibly exciting,
Yeah.
but I also think it's important
Mm.
to proceed thoughtfully
Right.
and ethically.
Yeah.
Like, as we're unlocking these secrets of the mind,
Yeah.
we need to be asking ourselves,
Hmm.
not just what we can do.
But what we should do.
Exactly. Yeah, like what are the implications of enhancing our cognitive abilities?
Yeah.
How do we make sure
Right.
that these technologies are accessible and beneficial to everyone?
Right. Not just
a select few.
A privileged group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a big responsibility.
Yeah, this has been such a mind-expanding conversation.
I know.
It really makes you think about what it even means to be human.
It really does.
What's the biggest thing you're taking away from all this?
I think for me, it's this sense of agency
Okay.
that Siegel emphasizes.
Like
Yeah, like we're not just passive observers of our own minds.
You can actually
We have the power to shape them.
Yeah, shape our own minds.
And transform them.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, that's like the most empowering takeaway from Siegel's work.
It's not just about letting my thoughts and feelings run wild.
It's about learning to understand them.
Yeah.
And work with them.
And even change them.
Exactly. Yeah. And by embracing this view, we can become active architects of our own mental well-being.
That's a cool way to put it.
It's like we're designing our own minds.
Okay, yeah.
It's pretty powerful.
It is powerful. So we've talked about this idea of integration and how it impacts our well-being in our relationships. But I'm really curious about how Siegel sees the mind evolving in the future.
Yeah. That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He believes that as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the mind, we're opening up all these possibilities that we could only have dreamed of before.
Like what?
Well, imagine harnessing the power of neuroplasticity to not only heal from trauma, but to actually enhance our cognitive abilities, our creativity, even our emotional intelligence.
So it's not just about fixing what's broken.
It's about going beyond that,
Okay.
reaching new levels of human potential.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And what about technology?
Oh, yeah.
How does that play into all of this?
Well, he talks about these emerging technologies like neurofeedback and brain-computer interfaces.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, they're pretty cutting edge.
Yeah.
And he sees them as potential game changers.
In what way?
Well, he envisions a future where we could use these tools to train our brains in ways that were never possible before. To unlock new levels of focus, clarity, well-being.
It's hard to even imagine what that would be like.
I know. It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
But I think it's also important to remember that with all this potential comes a lot of responsibility.
Right, like ethical considerations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to be asking ourselves not just what we can do,
but what we should do.
Exactly.
With all this knowledge and power.
Yeah. What are the implications?
Right.
Of enhancing our cognitive abilities.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that these technologies are used ethically and responsibly?
For the benefit of everyone.
Exactly, not just a select few.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It's a big conversation.
It is a big conversation.
And I think it's one we need to be having.
Yeah, for sure. So I think what really stands out to me from all of this is that sense of agency that Siegel talks about.
It's so empowering.
It is.
To realize that we're not just passive observers of our own mind.
We can actually shape them.
Yeah, we can shape them.
Through the choices we make, the relationships we cultivate.
Yes.
The experiences we seek out.
Exactly. And I think that's maybe the most important takeaway.
From Siegel's work.
Is that we have this power.
Yeah, we're not just victims.
Right. We're not just at the mercy.
Our circumstances.
Of our thoughts and feelings.
We can actually change things.
We can change things, yeah.
I like that.
It's hopeful, right?
It is hopeful.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the human mind, what's one final thought?
One final thought.
That you would leave our listeners with?
Okay, I think it would be this. Your mind is not fixed. It's not static. It's this dynamic, ever-evolving landscape that you have the power to shape.
I like that.
So ask yourself, what kind of mind do you want to cultivate?
What kind of mind do I want to cultivate?
Yeah. What seeds of potential are you going to nurture today?
Wow.
It starts with that question.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for guiding us through all of this.
It's been my pleasure.
This has been an incredible journey.
Yeah, it's been a fun one.
It has. And to all of our listeners out there, keep those minds curious and keep diving deep.
Until next time.
We'll see you then.